Welcome to another edition of Badger Blitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. From the recruiting trail to inside Camp Randall Stadium to on the court at the Kohl Center, I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Rivals.com national recruiting analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, good to see you as always, buddy.
Let's go. Great to see you, Matt. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I am good. Let's hop right into it. The people want us to talk about tight ends. Zach Ortworth took an official visit to Wisconsin, committed to Iowa, like most of us expected him to. Iowa and Notre Dame, let's face it, those two schools are tight end university right now. Wisconsin has probably taken a step back in the eyes of a lot of recruits recently. It seems now the Badgers have gotten some good names recently, but this cycle, this 2023 cycle, no one in the mix yet. Talk to us about, who's still available in the Midwest. Who are some guys that Badger fans can keep their eyes open for, down the line this fall?
Yeah, so I think there's three ways you can attack this as a recruiting staff, as a coaching staff. You can go with look for the under the radar guy, that maybe the guy who's developed late or hasn't developed yet, and but might have the raw skill set. And then you dig a little deeper. You look at the 3-game film, and maybe he is a sleeper and has just kind of flown under the radar. The second option is you go and you poach players, tight ends that are committed to teams that Wisconsin can traditionally or will beat. MAC level teams, FCS level teams. And then the third option that you can or third route you can take is you can go for that kind of receiver that has the frame, much of like what we see Iowa do a lot of the time. They get the guy who has the frame, might not have the weight on yet, but is athletic, can catch the ball, and can, grow into that tight end type. So that being said, I've got a couple kids in each of those categories that fit those, starting with the sleeper type. I had G watch Tyler beforehand, Matt. I don't know much about the kid. He's in Galena, Kansas. I don't know what the competition's like, but this is a big kid who moves around pretty well. He's got good body control, great ball skills. He's a basketball player. Is he under recruited? I mean, because of where he's at, or is it because of the competition? Or is there something we don't know? And I think that's something that the staff would probably need to do some digging into. But I do see him as a kid who's floating under the radar with only Eastern Michigan offer right now, I believe. So he'd be a kid that's very interesting. He's got the size. He'd be able to be a guy who can put his hand down, also flex out in certain situations. Then we've got the other type, which is more of an H-back type, kid named Brennan Wooten. He'd fall into the category of committed. He's committed to Western Michigan. Now, he's not going to stretch the field like a Jake Ferguson and be that, matchup nightmare. But what you can do with him, he's an H-back, fullback, tight end. He's a multi-tool player, so he can block. He can catch it from the tight end position. He can catch it flexed out. He's got the skill set to do it. He just doesn't have the top end speed to be that home run threat that maybe you're hoping for, not always going to get in a tight end recruit. But he can line up at fullback even too. And this is a thick body kid. He's probably in the 6'2", 6'2.5", 6'3" range. I think 240 pounds. So he'd be an interesting one. Kid out of Ohio committed to Akron would be another one. I'm not blown away by him. His name's Connor Kravak or something. I don't know a lot about him. But he has great size, and you see the upside. He's not there yet, but you see the upside. Basketball player as well. He's a kid that you do a little digging on now if you can't get him in a personal workout or on camp. And then you look at the 3-game film and see, well, did he do what we wanted him to do? Does he fit our mold? Do we want to potentially offer him, bring him on campus, whatnot? And then another kid who would fall into the under the radar, still developing, would be Mack O'Halloran from Downers Grove, South Illinois, actually, where the quarterback who ended up being the offensive tackle, what's his name, came from?
David Edwards?
Was he from South or North?
I thought he was from North, but I may be mistaken.
Okay. Well, still the Downers Grove area.
It's Downers Grove. It's not that big.
Yeah. Maybe a strike gold twice there. But Mack O'Halloran, he's a kid that as a freshman, I thought he was going to be a mid Power 5 kid. He was big at a young age, and he was very athletic. He's still very good, still has a high ceiling. At early on, I didn't know if he'd be a D end, outside linebacker, or tight end. Looks like he's focused on tight end. Um, he's just a kid that I think, you definitely want to do a little digging on. He's got some group of five FCS stuff right now, but he does have the size. He does have the athleticism. And he's definitely going to be, for me at least, if I'm Wisconsin, he's a 3-game senior film guy if I can't get him on campus for a workout or camp or something like that. As far as going the wide receiver route, getting a guy who can, obviously go out there and catch the ball, but has a little size. Ryan Sims from Marist High School is a kid who I thought, he was a a Power 5 level receiver. He's got the size. He's a polished route runner. He's got the ball skills. He works at it. He loves it. He's kind of a tweener between tight end and receiver. He doesn't have the speed to necessarily at tight end. He has the speed to stretch the field, especially if he's getting, running down the seam with the linebacker covering him. Like, that's a mismatch nightmare all day. I don't know if he's going to get big enough to put his hand in the dirt, but he could. But he could be a good flex type tight end. He had an amazing weekend at the Pylon Nationals. He mossed a game winner over a pretty highly recruited kid from the South. And so I was pretty impressed with him. Always have been. He's going to continue to grow. So he'd maybe be that tweener type that you look and you say, you know what, we could put some weight on him, get some nasty in him, make him a tight end. And then there's also a kid named Joe Walker from Warren Central in Indiana. He's like 6'4", 210 receiver. So he has that frame. He's a heck of a player. He does have some Power 5 offers. But, it's Pitt and Indiana and, schools that I feel Wisconsin can battle for if they wanted to. And a lot of these kids, sometimes they don't want to hear the word tight end. So it's you got to be careful how you word it as well. So.
One of the phrases that I really like that I'm going to steal from Mina Kimes is jumbo slot. A jumbo slot.
Jumbo slot. I love it.
Like Travis Kelce is a jumbo slot, right? So
he's a jumbo freak.
Yeah, exactly. But you can be used in that kind of way. That I think that would sound a lot more intriguing than coming to play tight end, especially if
you're going to be a jumbo slot. Yeah. I mean that's a winner right there. Travis Kelce was a 2-star jumbo slot that went to Cincinnati. So I mean, there's guys like that out there. Tight end's a unique position where sometimes you get a basketball kid that comes out their senior year because they didn't get recruited the way they wanted to. Sometimes you get quarterbacks, like Owen Daniels did in college, who end up being great tight ends. So there's a lot of options when it comes to the tight end position. It's just how big of a need is it? How much projecting are you willing to do? And are you willing to go all in on a guy that you trust your evaluation on that maybe isn't as highly recruited as some of the other guys that you've been going after?
For sure. So one of the other guys that we've talked about before here on the show, and I know that you're a fan of, I'm a fan of, is Khalil Tate. What is the latest with him on his recruitment, and has he set a decision date yet?
He has not set a decision date. I've heard from other people that he's probably looking to decide somewhat soon, but I really don't know. I think it will come down to Wisconsin, Iowa, who else? I really think maybe Nebraska. I'm not sure if they're really in it with him, but the two schools that seem to stick out for him are Wisconsin and Iowa. He's a Badger. He's a Hawkeye type of kid. His demeanor, the way he plays the game, the way he loves the game, hard-nosed kid, athletic, dynamic skill set, great kid, top-notch student, all of it. He checks all the boxes. So he does not have, as far as I know, a decision date set. And I was talking with him yesterday. So, he didn't tell me, but we were trying to set something up with one of his coaches for when he does decide, maybe going out to the school and filming something with him. So, remains to be seen. I think his recruitment is open. If some, major program came in on him, maybe, he changes directions. But right now, I see him probably going towards the Big Ten, with Wisconsin and Iowa being the favorites. But that's speculation because all of those kids at Kenwood, they're coached up on how to go about the recruiting process, and they keep things pretty close to the vest. Even though I'm pretty close with Khalil. So,
well, I know Badger fans like myself, obviously, are hoping that they are able to land him. One thing that also we got a question about from Lake Mills Badger in the Den. One of my favorite questions we've gotten So I just want to quote it directly. How much stock do you put into social media followers of a team that a recruit has? Seems like Tackett Curtis follows a large number of Badgers who are both current and incoming players, and not a ton from Ohio State and USC. Does that mean anything? Like, you are way better connected with these kids than most of us are. So, like, how much does that actually mean, and how much do you think that influences their decisions?
I mean, you can look at this a lot of ways. I think it's going to be different for each individual, and each individual circumstance is going to vary of importance when it comes to the social media connection. I mean, I think I follow 3,000 something people on Twitter. I probably interact with maybe 50 to 100 of them. So just because you follow someone doesn't mean that it's necessarily your best friends. Maybe they met up on a visit. Maybe they knew them from high school. Maybe they went, met camp 7-on-7, whatever it may be. And, but you also have, connections where maybe he connected with a number of guys at Wisconsin, not prior to, and he is talking with them. So you can read into it, you can look into it. I think it's, like I said, it's circumstantial. It depends on the kid, the individual, and and what they're using their social media for. That being said, this is something that it is tracked, it is followed. There are analytics software for this that college teams use. I don't know of any that only do the Twitter analytics, but there are, one company in particular, they track all the offers and everything else as well, camp footage, whatever it may be. But they also have a Twitter analytics page. So if I go on there, I can see how many players from a team follow a kid, how many the kid follows back. I can see which coaches follow them from which teams. And they kind of do like a little ranking based off of that, how connected they are with the program. And so it tracks literally in real time. It'll pop up if a coach follows a kid today. It's going to pop up on there. I'll be like, oh, wow, Minnesota hasn't offered this kid, but coach just followed him today. That might tell you, be a little hint of something to come in the future. So
That must be an amazing database. Like that, as someone, I've built databases as part of my job before. I'm fascinated by having a database like that has all the social media handles for all these different people, especially as they are changing throughout. The amount of labor that has to go into maintaining that and keeping that up to date is crazy.
Yeah, no, it tracks a lot of things. Offers, it scrubs Twitter, it scrubs the internet. But yeah, no, that is a tool. And I was telling you beforehand, it is not a tool that I think you use as on a macro level. I think it's on an individual level. So if I'm a coach recruiting a kid, trying to get some insights, directly into, okay, who's he maybe, talking with, who's he connecting with, and take a look at that. And so I think on a very, individual level, a lot can be said about it. It's up to interpretation at the end of the day, because there's following people and there's interacting with people. Now it also tells you if they're responding to tweets or liking tweets and stuff like that. That might be a better indicator of how they're interacting with the players that they are mutually following from a program and have connected with. Also Wisconsin kids are a little different than Ohio State kids, maybe. Ohio State kids, some of those guys are, a lot of them have got blue check marks next to their name and aren't interacting or following back a lot of people. I mean, I only have 21,000 something Twitter followers, but I can't keep, the second I click on my alerts, I've got, 40 new notifications. So, long story short, it is something that can matter. It is something that some teams do follow if they invest in the software. There's not, one overarching way to really describe that. I wouldn't make a bet based off Twitter followers and interactions, but it can be one of many telling signs of where a kid's head is at in the recruiting process.
That's really fascinating. I mean, I guess they're using data and analytics to, in every single facet of life. So why not recruiting?
Yeah, no, I mean, anything to give you the edge or to give you a little insight on a kid, it can go a long way, especially if, it shows you care if you're paying attention to those things. Kids would be surprised what you can pull out of your butt that they just pulled out of an analytics platform, and that could make them excited. So
That's fascinating stuff, man. Fascinating stuff. This is why we come to you every week. You give us the goods. I don't know how many people out there knew about Twitter analytics for recruits, but hey, now we do. So listen, we appreciate your time as always, buddy. Make sure to catch Clint at rivals_Clint on all the social media places. Twitter. We're talking about, I don't know what his analytics look like. I'm sure they look better than mine. Make sure to subscribe to the Badger Blitz YouTube page. Like, subscribe, recommend it, tell a friend to tell a friend. And make sure
bring
you're
some
on.
friends.
Absolutely. And make sure you're on BadgerBlitz.com every day to keep up with the latest news on everything Wisconsin athletics. And until next time, I'm Matt Perkins, and we will see you in the den.